and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everyone here tonight. That had a very good ring to it. The first thing we have to do right off the bat is we as a council have to give Councilman Foster the approval to attend by Zoom. So Dave, can you hear me? No, we can't.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So Dave, if you would, tell us where you are, your location, and why you have to be on Zoom.
I'm in Lady Lake, Florida. I got a panicky call to come down and pick up my mother-in-law and bring her back to bed.
Do I hear consensus? Yep. Okay. We're going to allow you, even though you are in Florida. So,
I appreciate that, Mayor.
you're welcome. All right, approval of minutes. Everyone's had a chance to read through those. And no additions or changes. They stand approved. Report of Town Manager, Mr. Warner.
Thank you, Mayor Stanley, members of council. Got a few things to cover tonight. One, as people may or may not be aware, we have been experiencing several problems and issues with this building, particularly the air conditioning and electrical systems. Many components related to these issues are original to the structure, which has been continuously operated for over 55 years at this point. In our efforts to prolong their function, we are encountering difficulties such as discontinued and obsolete parts and other issues, which is leading us to consider a significant renovation activity. We are currently in the process of assessing contingencies and their related costs, and when we get to that point, I would like to add discussion of municipal building issues as an item of new business towards the end of the meeting. Also, the repair work on the drainage issue on Railroad Avenue has commenced. It's scheduled to continue for a period of 7 days. We hope to get it fixed sooner than that. Primary adverse impact is on the residents of 620 Railroad Avenue and their parking lot, but we do think we've identified the source of the problem, and the pipe in particular needs to be replaced, and working to fix that. On a more pleasant note, once again, the town of Bedford has been awarded a Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting by the Government Finance Officers Association, and I want to thank Ann Cantrell and recognize her and her staff, in particular the Finance Department, for this recognition. On another administrative note, the Bedford County Board of Supervisors has recently changed the date and time of their regular meetings beginning in September in a manner that will directly conflict with our regular meetings. There has been some previous discussion about changing the date and frequency of our meetings anyway, so in light of these issues, I want to give everybody a heads up that we are exploring the possibility of Town Council moving to one monthly meeting to take place on the third Tuesday of each month, which would require a formal amendment of Section 2-27 of the Town Code. And on a final administrative note, just want to remind everybody that town offices will be closed on Monday, September 1st in observance of the Labor Day holiday.
Good deal. A lot of information there. All right. And all those things he mentioned, we will discuss them at some point in time. All right, appearances before council. I had a good list here, and and first off, I'm going to ask Pastor John Sines to come up and pray for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Privileged to be here with you this evening. Will you pray with me? Heavenly Father, creator of all things, master of the universe, and giver of all life, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we thank you for the blessing of this day. We thank you for this town council and those who have answered the call to represent this wonderful little town here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Your word teaches us that to whom much is given, of him shall be much required. So we ask you, Lord, for your wisdom this evening on Mayor Stanley, Vice Mayor Updike, Mr. Haley, Mr. Foreman, Mr. Eppolito, Mr. Foster, and Mr. Evans. They are in your hands, Lord, and we ask for your spirit to guide them as you do the rivers of water, as they conduct the business of this community. We thank you for this gathering, We thank you for this responsibility. But most of all, Lord, we thank you for giving your son Jesus, born of a virgin, who died on a cross, who rose again in supernatural splendor to redeem a falling world, and who is at the right hand of the Father, ready to gather his church. For it's in his name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. All right. Second, I think Mr. Steve Rush has a presentation to make. Wherever you are, come on down. Or up, whatever you want to say.
Thank you, CG.
You're welcome.
I just left my notes back. I've been president of the Bedford International Alliance for about the last 3 years. And the Bedford International Alliance has been in existence 26 years, long before any other Bedford Boys stuff has been around. The leaders of the Bedford Council and Board of Supervisors 26, 27 years ago, when we got to talking about the D-Day Memorial, brought the formation of the BIA and partnered with Normandy, France, and all the little communities out there in the Omaha Beach area. Every 2 or 3 years, the BIA travels to France. We had 40 people go over this year, 41, I think, to be exact. And they visited Omaha Beach, and they went to the cemetery, and we pay our respects there, and go to all the beaches and all the other things. I think Tim may have given you a brief synopsis of it several weeks ago. Well, while over there, the OBB, Omaha Beach Bedford Association, usually presents us with something, and we give them something. Well, they presented this thing right here that's got the name of 19 boys on it. And right here is sand from the Omaha Beach.
Wow.
And right here, Omaha Beach is mile marker 0. Now, they've done much like what we did with Civil War trails in France, but it's much bigger. But Omaha Beach is #1, and I don't know what the last one, but it's all over France. You go see these different places. We've gotten, I think this flag was presented, that's the Normandy flag, and several other things, and back here in the cabinet are other things that we've gotten over the years from. So I'm presenting this to the town to put back in that cabinet. And back in October, we had the board people from OBB over here. So they looked at that stuff to see what we were doing to remember them too. So, and I think actually, one of them sat in your chair. He was a pretty good mayor.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, here it is.
We remember that. We'll agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If y'all interested, I got brochures. I think it's about 108 numbers in there.
See, we appreciate this, and D-Day has a special meaning in Bedford. Anybody that grew up here knows Bedford was D-Day.
Well, actually, I think that was presented. There was 3 people with descendants, and Giles Hoback got that because his uncle was dead. But anyway.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm just going to go down the top of the list and pick up where we left off here. I see a lot of people here for the farmer's market. So those who want to come, if I call a name and you rather, or you plan to speak for electric, just say you'll wait for the public hearing for that. But we will limit you to 3 minutes. And at this point, I will call Jeremy Chapman to come up and speak on behalf of the farmer's market.
How you doing?
Doing good.
I just came here to see what's going on about the farmer market. I've been here for almost 63 years. Well, in my lifetime, I ain't never seen no drugs nowhere around my Brazilian area. What they talking about, the farmer market, you know. There's been people there being quiet and take care of everything. Ain't never seen no trouble, whatever. But, you know, I'm just here to speak on behalf of they should keep it open for the people.
Thank you. All right, next is Nikki Clark, and if you would, when you come up, give your name and where you live.
I'm Nikki Clark. I'm here to talk about the farmers market. I've lived in town in Bedford for about 8 years, and I have a vehicle, but I love walking. I just love walking from my home to the farmers market, take a little break, and then go on my way to the library, do my shopping on the way, and take a break, get some food, and sit there. I met all kinds of people that take a break there, and there's plenty of people that need to take a break because there's a lot of walkers, and it just breaks my heart that y'all have that up there because a lot of people, it is comforting. It's community. You get to meet people, hikers, people coming from all over take a break there. And I wish y'all just please take it down. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Stephen Blizzard.
Hi, my name's Stephen Blizzard. I've been a resident of Bedford City for 24 years. I'd just like to lend my voice in support of taking down the threat of prosecution signs at the farmers market. I personally rest there. I'm not in the best of health for walking wise, and I use the farmers market to rest when I'm walking between my home on South Bridge Street to the community centre where we run the warming shelter and the shower and suds ministry. I see people that we serve in that ministry using the farmers market to stay out of the heat of the sun or to get shelter from the rain. And I believe it is a valuable community resource that should be free for everybody to use under no threat of prosecution. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Tim Brook.
Members of council, Mr. Mayor, I want you to know St. John's prays for each and every one of you every Sunday, but let us start in prayer for local government. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, send down upon those who hold office in this town of Bedford the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may serve their offices to promote the well-being of all people through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Well, I got a lot of thank yous for bringing it to my attention 2 weeks ago, and it certainly doesn't seem like it should take that long to take down some fairly ugly signs. And if not being a welcoming and happy community is not going to be our standard, then let's change our motto. I would like to thank Vice Mayor Updike for having the courage to call me after my text messages were ignored for 3 days. Please take down the signs.
Thank you. Next is Robert Lazanka. Okay, thanks. I apologize.
Robert Skornica. I live at 737 Burks Hill Road. My wife and I have only lived here a couple of years, and we enjoy the farmer's market, but the sign thing, I want to keep it. We like the farmer's market, but I just don't want to see it go bad with the signage and whatever. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Rick Reynolds.
Good evening. My name is Rick Reynolds, and I was born and raised here in Bedford, but this is not the friendly town I grew up in. I recently stopped at the town-owned property on Washington Street for the intention of using the restroom while running errands. The doors were locked. Then I read the sign. It appears this area is for the sole purpose of the farmer's market and no one else, even though it's owned by the citizens of the town of Bedford. Jay, it's very obvious I cannot purchase a meal to go from you, go to the farmer's market, and enjoy it at the picnic tables without being cited for trespassing and or loitering. This is an unintended consequence. The Bedford County website has a tab that states, "The town of Bedford is dubbed the world's best little town for a reason." What needs to be added is, just don't sit at the farmer's market picnic tables. How are you going to fix this?
Thank you. All right, Jennifer Cohn.
Hi, Jennifer Cohn, 3674 Forest Road. I'm also the owner of the Little Otter Flower Farm, and it's the place where the sign is where we are at the market in that corner. And so, you know, I think we've lost a little balance. We have issues with keeping the farmers market safe and clean, and that's why we changed the sign. So I would not want to completely take the sign down every day. When we go there, we have to sweep the area of cigarette butts. We have had sharp things, and so, you know, Erica and I work really hard to make the farmers market a very community, family-friendly place, and the sign doesn't really give off that kind of vibe. So what I would ask is perhaps there's an alternative sign. I think some have been proposed with language that's a little more friendly, as folks have talked about the town. But I still think that there's a need to remind folks that this is a community place and we should respect it as we respect all of our own property, and not litter and not leave sharp things, and make it safe for the market. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Wilson Brown.
Hello, my name is Wilson Brown. I live at 715 Sunset Drive, and I have the honor of being the clergy for St. John's. It's going to sound like we coordinated some of our comments, and we have not. I wanted to lead off with saying that we appreciate you, and we do pray for you every Sunday. At the behest, I've written my comments to try and keep short because I'm a preacher, but as we talked about these things, I drove by the farmer's market today, and it radiates warmth and hospitality. There are picnic tables donated by Lowe's. There's some charming sidewalk chalk art suggesting that there may have been children at play there at some point. And then there are those signs. They're aggressive. They're threatening any of us that would presume to hang out there. Even my being, they're very aggressive. We have a bunch of slogans about how wonderful Bedford is, and they're well-deserved. A lot of the times you know them better than I do, probably. Life, liberty, happiness, the world's best little town, better in Bedford, the town mission statement to provide the best place to live, work, and play. And yet, at that particular spot in the town where we actually end up trying to serve some of the neediest among us, the town's erected signs telling us to keep out. I know that there are real issues out there, and I know and they need addressing, but telling us to keep out except during sanctioned events, I submit, is an overreaction that disproportionately impacts the most vulnerable among us. And we don't have those signs at the Clock Tower Park. We don't have those signs any other place in town, just there. Especially for the world's best little town, there has to be a better way to address the problems than to say, keep out. I would ask you to change them or remove them or whatever's appropriate. I trust you to figure that out, but those signs, I think, are too much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Christopher Carey.
Hello, my name is Christopher Carey. I've lived in Bedford pretty much all my life. As far as the farmer's market goes, the farmer's market has been here as long as I've been living, and everybody enjoys it. But with that being said, we do have people generally from the outside of the community that comes and causes the problems. So I've heard a lot of people say that, they don't like the wording. That is true. The wording is a little harsh. It could be changed till after dark, no loitering after dark. It could have a 6 to 6 time frame. Those simple things could help out. Another thing is, before you make any more changes, take into account where we are. Yes, we are in Bedford, the town that is small, that everybody loves. It is great, but that doesn't mean we don't have problems surrounding us. Roanoke, Danville, Lynchburg, they have drug problems. We don't want their problems. And if you notice, a lot of the homeless that come here generally causes the problems. It's not our normal people, and I don't mean normal in that sense, but what I'm saying, our regulars. So the regular people that live around here that walk and carry on, we generally know who they are. It's the outside that brings the problems. Now, you can't stop people from coming, and we want to be welcoming, but we do want to keep a standard. So changing the wording would help in that regard, so people can come to your establishment, so people can sit at the farmer's market. So the time is now to act, but also decide in doing this in a way that it makes sense for everybody. It helps the community, for the people that do like to walk and enjoy sitting down and eating lunch, but it also is inviting to the outcomer, but it also protects the business. So we need to take the time to come up with a good decision that makes sense, and I do believe the verbiage needs to be changed. Thank you.
Mr. Carey, what was your address?
Oh, I'm sorry. I actually live at 1037 Curtis Street, which is in Timber Ridge.
Okay.
But like I said, all my life, been up here in Bedford.
That's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next one, I'll probably butcher it, but Heber Yules, E-R.
You gonna ask me?
I don't know. Starts with an H, last name starts with an E.
Herman? Herman?
Oh, it's Herman.
I'm sorry.
Herman,
Herman Evans.
Oh, Herman Edwards, okay. That makes sense. I deeply apologize, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
We've been prayed for, so I hope we're okay.
All right. Look, first of all, I want to say God bless all of you all and your families. And I want to be on behalf of Officer Mr. Brooks. I'm over at the farmer's market pretty much every day because I load the trucks to Christian ministry. I volunteer to women's shelter. So I see all this. So the thing about that, as I said before, prior to this, that you have people coming in here and, they want to sit over there and eat and whatever go on. They want to eat and sit down at the table, and if they're not allowed to sit down at the table, then what are they going to do? And I'm on a constant basis. I'm talking about every day.
Yes.
Not just day, tomorrow. I'm talking about every day. And it's really nothing going on that's criminal around there. Let's look at these other states. Let's look at these other states and other countries. We are blessed. We are blessed. Really blessed. And I just want to say that because I'm over there on a daily basis. So I see it on a daily basis. And I just want to say, I think we ought to do something about it.
Okay.
And good luck. God bless all of you, all in your family. I really appreciate it. Can you give me 1 minute?
Sure.
Most heavenly gracious Father, we come before your throne of grace at this time, and Father God, we just want to thank you, oh Father God, for bringing us together, Lord, as one, oh Lord, and praying that we will come to some kind of agreement, Lord, that will help us all, oh Father God. Lord, we want to thank you for what you've done for us on Calvary's cross over some 2,000 years ago, giving your life that we may live, and that we may live that life more abundantly. We want to thank you for only hearing our prayer, but for asking our prayer as well. We want to give you the most highest praise in Jesus' name, saying hallelujah to the King. Amen.
Amen.
God
Thank you.
bless.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next one is Winston Brooks. I got that one right.
Good evening, Winston Burks. I'm at 720 College Street. I've been in Bedford 37 years, I think. Okay. I really had not had any real contact with our homeless population, and I want to say our homeless population. You know, it's not. This is not, you know, trucked in people. It's our homeless population. Until I had started working at the warming shelter. I've spent more nights than I can remember sleeping on a cot with these people. My wife and my daughter have slept on a cot all night with these people. It may be inconvenient, it may at times be unsightly, but it's not a dangerous crowd. And their lives are hard. Their lives are very hard. And by shooing them out of the farmer's market, it doesn't go away. They don't go away, and the problem doesn't go away. What we do is we make life just a little bit harder for people whose lives are already harder than most of us can really understand. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that is all of the ones who wanted to appear before council that we had. So we'll move on to council comments. Jay, what you got for us?
I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. It's a good crowd, a good turnout. I want to thank Mr. Sines for our prayer, Steve for bringing the plaque back. I'd also like to thank Mr. Chapman, Ms. Clark, Stephen, Mr. Brook, Robert, Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Coe, Mr. Brown, Mr. Carey, Mr. Evans, and Mr. Brooks. We do hear what y'all say, and y'all are not going unheard, so I do want y'all to know that.
I just want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank everybody for their comments. I want to thank Mr. Rush for bringing that back. I appreciate it, and appreciate the BIA. Thank you.
I want to thank Mr. Johnson Jr. for the prayer. You know, I've listened to some of the other people talk about the market. And, you know, things led to that sign possibly, and there was reason why stuff led to that sign. So, you know, some people said there was no drug activity or no issues down there, or no, we have actually one person go over and threaten the people at the D-Day Memorial, their staff over there. My point is, you know, there was stuff going on behind the scenes after dark that probably some of you didn't see. And, you know, in the process of Erica taking the market over a couple of years ago or whatever, They had people burning books in the bathrooms down there to do that. They taken a little library book down there. Police reports are on that. I mean, there was an individual down there a couple of years ago that was arrested for drug activity and drinking down there and was living down there. So, you know, the process of the sign might be a little bit more possible that could be adjusted, but in the sense of speaking, it was probably led up to that point where things has happened in the past over the years that has caused this to get to this point. So, I mean, that's the truth. You can ask anybody. That's no lie. Thank you.
Darryl, what you got?
First of all, I want to thank everybody that, anyway, for being here. Thank Mr. Sign for his prayers, and thank all of y'all, anyway, for your prayers. We covered your prayers. And again, we listen to what y'all say, anyway, what y'all talk about signage, or what you talk about this or that. We take it into consideration, but we have to make decisions as a town as a whole, not just a group of people. But again, we listen to y'all. Also, I'd like to hit on some of the activities that went on this weekend. One was the town carnival. Talked to a lot of people. There was a lot of people up there, and they were very enjoyable. They enjoyed it. They said it was a very good carnival. It was a very good place to have it. And also, I'd like to thank the county, anyway, for putting in, it was the new pickleball courts. I was down there Wednesday for the ribbon cutting, and I was again down there Saturday for a little gathering. And everybody seems to think that the town had something to do with it, but no, it's the county, and I want to thank the county. And again, thank everyone anyway for showing up tonight.
Dave, what you got for us?
Yeah, I just want to, apologize for not being able to be there in person, but really just want to give another shout out to Ann and her financial crew for getting the certificate of excellence. It just kind of again shows what kind of wonderful staff we have, and that's about all I have.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor
All
Updike.
right. Again, thanks everyone for coming out, sharing your thoughts with us. I'd like to also thank Ann and her staff for continued fine work that they're churning out for us. To echo some of the comments that Mr. Evans had, I too heard some very positive comments about the county fair. Unfortunately, I had some family events that took me into Franklin County for most of that time, so didn't get to get there myself. But again, I heard several positive comments about it. Well run, well maintained, and want to thank Pastor Sines for his words, and for all those that have shared a prayer with us while you're here. We appreciate that. There's always room for one more prayer, as far as I'm concerned. That's about all I got, Mayor.
All right, thank you. I too want to thank the pastors for giving the prayer and the additional prayers that we got. As I always say, we can use all the blessings we can get. I've done the past week or so, I did attend the ribbon cutting for the pickleball court on Bedford Avenue. Pickleball is a very fast-growing sport in this country. It's picked up. I was on vacation week before last, and actually had a pickleball court at the RV park where we were. So it is catching on, and it is for all ages. As long as you can move around and see the ball and hit it, you're good to go. And it's fun. Gives you some good exercise. Also, I did attend the county fair Saturday night. Took our two oldest grandkids to it, and they had a blast. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would say it was a success. I imagine we'll talk to Tom at some point and see how it went, and if they want to come around next year, any changes, questions we would ask. But the crowds I saw Friday and Saturday night, I would say it was good, very good. And I also, again, Steve, did he leave? I don't know. Oh, thank you for bringing that gift back from France for D-Day. We appreciate that. And of course, as you say, we have a strong connection to France and Omaha Beach there, and this town has served its dues. Thank you. And I too want to congratulate Ann Cantrell on her achievement. Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, presented to Town of Bedford, Virginia for its annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024. And I'm not going to read all of this, but at the bottom it says, this certificate of achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. Now, Ann, I'm not going to tell you, it takes more than one person to come together and get all the wheels turning in the direction they need to go and focused on what you want to accomplish. But it takes one person to coordinate all that and bring it together, and that one person is you. We appreciate what you have done in your entire department. Thank you very much. And I think that is, oh, no, I have to comment on the signs. Yes, thank you. I heard, I was not here at the last meeting, I apologize. I too was on vacation. But I heard comments, and I've since heard you all tonight. I will say it probably is a little harsh. We probably need to maybe reevaluate it and see what better language we can use. But I tried to put a few comments together, and I hope maybe this will encompass where we are as council. I do appreciate your concerns and your compassion for those in need. The no loitering sign at the farmer's market is not aimed at discouraging ministry work or helping the homeless. That service is valued in community. The purpose of the sign is to address repeated complaints from nearby businesses about after-hour gatherings that sometimes create safety and maintenance issues, and we have had those. The sign provides a legal tool if problems arise, but enforcement is always at the discretion of law enforcement, and typically only used when behavior becomes disruptive or unsafe. Our goal is to strike a balance, allowing important ministry work to continue while also ensuring that public spaces remain safe, clean, and welcoming for everyone, including our business community. But we will look at that again and see what changes we need to do. But I do appreciate everyone who came and spoke tonight. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, report of council committees. I do not think we have any. Revision to agenda.
Yeah, Mayor Stanley, just a couple. First off, I would request that we move the consent agenda forward in the list of items ahead of the public hearing. I think the homecoming parade is probably an issue that can be dealt with relatively quickly and simply, and Ms. Coles probably has to get up and go to school tomorrow, so would request that we move the consent agenda next in line ahead of the public hearing, and also that we add discussion of municipal building issues as the last item of new business before closed session.
I think we can do that. Is everyone okay with it? All right. Then request to close Streets Liberty High School Homecoming Parade, Liberty High School Student Council Association, Mr. Warner.
Liberty High School Student Council Association is requesting that council authorize the closing of following streets for the Liberty High School Homecoming Parade on Wednesday, October 8th. Parade scheduled for 5:30 p.m. Those streets are College Street, Peak Street, Bridge Street, and right onto Main Street. Tonight, Town Council is requested to consider that, and I believe the SCA President, Victoria Coles, is present and has a presentation to make.
Good.
While she comes up, I'll also mention that she's a member of the state runner-up quiz bowl team.
Wow. Well, welcome. If you would just state your name and Tell us what's on your mind.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Victoria Coles. I'm here tonight as the Liberty High School SCA president. I'm here to request permission to hold our annual homecoming parade through downtown on October 8th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. We plan to continue the same route that we've previously used, so starting on College Street and ending at the courthouse. If approved, we'll need to know the cost of this event, and we may not be able to afford the cost, but regardless, we would like to thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. You've heard the spiel, and do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. All right. Councilman Evans made it, and Councilman Updike seconded it. Roll call.
Mr. Evans?
Aye.
Mr. Foreman?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Ippolito?
Aye.
Mr. Updike?
Aye.
Mayor Stanley?
Aye.
Motion carries with all 7 members voting aye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, moving on, I guess we'll get to the public hearings. For the electric rate tariff for fiscal year '26. Anyone who would like to come up and speak on that topic, you are now welcome to do so, and come on up. The public hearing is now open.
You probably should let,
Mayor.
probably ought to let Ralph tell us, present the
sorry.
information first so people can have that
That's right.
directly and respond to it.
I deeply apologize. The firm of Telus is here tonight to give their results of their study and enlighten us. There's probably some questions that you all may have on your minds. As usual, I got ahead of myself. I even talked to you about doing that, and what did I do?
Well, first off, thank you so much for the opportunity, Mr. Mayor, members of council, to speak with you. Bart Krebs with Raptellus. The town had engaged us to do an electric rate study. Our firm Raptellus does utility rate and financial planning all across the country. So just kind of looking at the agenda quickly, I got through introductions. I want to talk a little bit about the financial planning process that we go through when we do a rate study, kind of looking at kind of the financial plan, not only kind of today, but into the future. And we're going to talk about the design of rates and our recommendations around that, but then ultimately kind of get to the customer impacts, which is what I think you're probably most interested in. I think just one thing I'd like to say before I kind of get into the details, when you talk about utility financial planning, I think it's really important to remember that the electric system is an enterprise fund. And I think the two big takeaways of it being an enterprise fund that we need to remember is it's funded from user charges, so it's nothing to do with taxes. And the idea of an enterprise fund is that we want to run it like a business, so we need to recover its costs, basically, at its core. And so that's kind of the tenets we use around financial planning. In terms of what we were engaged to do specifically, one relates to the financial plan. When I talk about financial plan, we're talking about kind of looking at the revenues of the system, the costs of the system, kind of looking into the future, and then the sufficiency of the revenue stream to recover those costs, because then that will tell us whether or not we need to have potential adjustments in rates to address those costs. And once we figure out what the revenues of the system need to be, the second piece relates to kind of designing the rates around that. And what we try to do there is kind of link that to the drivers of costs. And we want to be consistent with kind of cost of service principles in terms of how customers cause utility to incur costs. Okay, so I'm going to go through some items in the financial plan. And so think of the financial plan as kind of our roadmap. So when we get engaged in a project, what we do is we come in and we sort of figure out where things are with the utility from a financial perspective, and then we want to lay out that projection in terms of where we want to go. So that means we have to look at the revenue stream, I look at our accounts, our consumption, what we have currently, what we project in the future. And then we look at the cost side as well. So we look at our operating costs, we look at our capital costs, how we're going to finance those capital costs, and then we look at the financial policies that the town has as it relates to things like reserves. How much money should you have in the bank? Because that kind of holds the glue, that's the glue that holds the financial plan together. So we look at all those things. So a little bit of details on, how we looked at kind of the cost side of the ledger. So when you look at the operating expenses, so we project the operating expenses off the fiscal 26 budget that the town had prepared. So that's sort of our baseline. And then we look into the future, we have to escalate those costs because costs change over time. So absent of the power supply piece, which I'll talk about in a second, our assumptions on escalation are more inflationary based around that 3% level. However, the purchase power piece, which represents the bulk of the operating costs, what we're seeing there is some really significant increases in power supply costs. This is something that's happened across the country. A lot of it relates to, you probably read about in the paper, and just the demand for electricity generation and transmission. Well, we're seeing that, and our providers are seeing that, and that cost filters down through the system. So there was an increase that's been incorporated in the 26 budget, and then the information we get from the suppliers helps us project that into the future. And we're seeing that that cost increase is going to go up by about 15% in 27, another 10% in 28, and back to probably the 4 to 5% level after that, which is something that we just have to deal with. That's largely outside of our control. We do have other costs related to the distribution system that we have to look at. One represents kind of our existing debt service we have on the electric fund. We do have some existing debt. Fortunately, that debt's paid off pretty soon. It's rolling off in 26. We have one outstanding note in the system. And we're not proposing any new debt to fund the capital improvement plan, which are those capital projects we plan on doing over the next 5 years. We're kind of forecasting that we would cover that with revenue we can generate from rates or supplemented with reserves. On the revenue side, so the way we look at revenues, so we have to have kind of our baseline of consumption to project revenues, and given that, some of our customers are very sensitive to weather, particularly when it's really cold in the winter or hot in the summer, they use more electricity. We have to sort of normalize, those customers, largely our residential customers. So we do that, and then we project out into the future. We're trying to be, I like to say, reasonably conservative in our projections. We're seeing a little bit of potential growth in the system. We've got it kind of factored in at roughly about 0.5%, growing up to about 1%, because there is some development, but we expect that will take some time to happen, so we try to be very conservative on that. And that's just more on the residential side. Our other customer classes, we kind of just hold level as we look out over the forecast. And then there's some other revenues that we get from some sort of ancillary services that are provided that we generally keep pretty constant over the forecast. So when you kind of take the revenues and you take the costs and you sort of look at that all together, what we're seeing is there is a need for rate increases. And if you look at kind of the system and look at rate increases, just if we did them across the board, so we didn't change the structure of the rates at all. In fiscal 26, we are seeing about a 17% increase that's needed. In 27, it's about 11%, and then it kind of trails down a little bit after that. The driver of that is the power supply component, as I had mentioned to you before. Most of our power is bought through AMP Ohio, and then it's transmitted through PJM, which is a transmission provider. Their costs are going up. Their costs go up. They get passed along to us. So that is really the big driver. But as we think about those costs, the other things we also need to think about is making sure that the fund stays financially healthy. We want it to be. We want to be able to provide safe and reliable services. So we have to have reserves in the fund, but we want to have prudent levels of reserves, and we've taken that into consideration. So sometimes it's easier to look at graphs, I think, to sort of illustrate the situation. And so let me kind of walk you through this. So On the, kind of the left side, this sort of represents the financial plan in a chart format. And so kind of working my way up on the bar charts from the bottom. So, you know, the first year is fiscal 25, kind of the year we're just coming out of. The dark blue part of the bar is the operating expenses associated with the distribution system, effectively. The sort of pink part of the bar represents our existing debt service on the system that I mentioned. The blue part represents that sort of cash finance capital piece that I talked about that would fund capital projects. But by far the biggest part of the bar is the green part, and that's the purchase power component. So again, it represents about 70% of our costs. It's a really big piece. So then if you look at the line right there, that shows basically the current revenues of the system, which are roughly around $25 million. Again, we're not assuming that we're going to have huge levels of growth that would make that line go up without changing rates. So that line is relatively flat. So when the bars are above the line, well, that means you don't have the cash to cover the expenses. So the way you'd have to do it is you'd have to pull down your reserves to cover them. So kind of what we're proposing is more on the right, where that line kind of hits the top of the bars and covers our costs as we move out over time. So the challenge is if we don't do anything, I mentioned the reserve position. You know, right now the town has prudent financial policies around reserves, reasonable levels of reserves, generally hovering about at the 300-day O&M mark, which is a standard kind of practice. But if we don't do anything, and again those bars go above that line, well, the reserves will start going down, and you know, they'll go down pretty quickly, and then they go negative, and that's just not a position that we want to be in. So with the proposed rates, what we've kind of factored in is kind of keeping those reserves just a little bit lower than we currently have, but roughly at that same level. The two lines that you kind of see across there on the right-hand side, one represents kind of the minimum balance we have to have in there based on policy, and then the other line represents the 300-day mark, which is about where we want to be, and that's basically where the forecast has us end. I think this graphic is a really important one to look at, because I know rate increases are hard, and nobody likes rate increases. But if you look historically at kind of where we've been, and kind of went back really almost a decade, and so let me kind of walk you through this chart. So if you go back to about 2016, I think other than the small increase that was done in the customer charge, I think last year, really haven't changed the base rates in a very long time. So if you go back to 2016 and 2017, that dark blue bar represents kind of a typical customer bill at 1,000 kilowatt hours per month, which was, you know, just shy of about $140. So you can see that bar actually, if you follow it out over time, actually went down some. That's because power supply costs actually back then went down a little bit. And it's come back up a little bit, but generally not much of a difference in the last decade, really. So then what we did is said, okay, well, what if we just would have applied general inflation to where we were back in 2016? When I say general inflation, the consumer price index is kind of a proxy that's used for inflation at the retail level. So the lighter blue part then says, okay, if we would just increase rates at an inflationary clip, where would that put us? And so you can see all the way over to the right, if we did that, we'd be much higher than we are today in fiscal 25. So then that red bar at the end represents kind of where we'd be with the proposed rates. We're actually still a little bit lower than if we would have just changed based on inflation. So some of this is just kind of catching up. And again, a lot of it is just the power supply piece that, you know, all customers in the country are going to see, because there's just kind of an insatiable demand for, you know, capacity in the energy space. Okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and then talk about rate design, because that kind of looked at, you know, what we think the revenue stream needs to look like. But then we were also tasked to say, okay, the way the rates are currently designed, is that the best way, or do we want to make some suggestions around that? So kind of go through the existing rate structure at a high level. There's a lot of different components. Electric rates are pretty complicated, but you know, generally, most all the customers will pay a customer charge, which is a fixed charge, so it doesn't change based on how much you use. The residential customers pay kind of a usage or an energy charge, and that's a rate, $1 per kilowatt hour. Some of our bigger customers pay things called a demand charge, which relates to kind of peak demand use, and then a variety of other things. And then the one thing I will point out, the power cost adjustment factor, which we currently have, the way I kind of categorize that is it's sort of a partially unbundled power cost adjustment rate. Some of the piece is kind of embedded in the base rates, and the current amount is about 6 cents per kilowatt hour. And then the PCA is a mechanism to help kind of recover those costs as they go up, but it's currently set at about 3 cents, but it's sort of a partially unbundled structure. So again, given that the power supply was the big driver of things, that was really the focus on rate design. So I apologize, that slide had gone back. Sorry about that. I was looking at my notes and you guys didn't see that. So that was what I just went through right there, just to clarify. So given that we kind of have the partially unbundled power supply structure, one of the recommendations that we see is, we think it's prudent to fully unbundle that cost, since that is the big driver, so you can have really good transparency in terms of seeing that cost and flexibility to recover that cost, because there's a lot of components to what that cost is going to be, and it's really good to be able to see it. And the other piece of that is sort of how you allocate the recovery of that cost. And I'm not going to get too much into sort of electric system cost of service, but generally with electric systems, they're designed to meet peak demand, not average demand. So when you get into allocating capacity related costs, which a lot of the power supply is, from a cost of service standpoint, you kind of look at how the customers use the system. And residential customers actually don't use the system as efficiently because they're very weather sensitive. So when it gets super cold in the winter like it does here, we'll use a lot of power. Even in the summer too, when it gets really hot, although we are a winter peaker here. So it's not as efficient as, say, a larger customer that's using power for more of a process. They tend to have more consistent or better load factors, as it's sort of called in the industry. So we did look at that, and we use that as kind of a basis to distribute the power supply piece. So we're doing it in a way that's consistent with cost of service. And then when we fully unbundle that component, the other charges would kind of be reduced proportionately. And I know there's quite a bit on this slide, and it's sort of hard to see, but this is effectively sort of a comparison. If you just did across the board increases, which are sort of on the left there, that's what kind of the structures for the various customer classes that we have would be. If you go to the right side, this is more the proposed structure, where for residential, we're recommending kind of keeping the $25 charge where it is. The energy charge would go down significantly because we're moving the power supply piece out, and the power supply piece would go up. And then for the larger customer classes, if you kind of follow through on this slide and the next, it's a similar concept. It's just that the power supply component, there's different rates for the classes. That gets back to that cost of service concept I was talking about. At the end of the day, I think, where the rubber hits the road are the impacts. And so when you look at sort of a typical monthly bill, and I had mentioned 1,000 kilowatt hours before, that's around typical. This is actually slightly more than 1,000 kilowatt hours. But, currently customers are paying about $154 per month. If we just did things across the board, that would go up to about $180. With the proposed structure, it goes up a few dollars more to $184, but again, we're trying to be consistent with cost of service. If you look at kind of a smaller commercial customer, larger bill, larger increase, but as you get larger customer size, a little bit more efficient use, so it's a little bit lower under the proposed structure. And if we look at just kind of we have some really large customers as well in Bedford that use power for their facilities, and so their power bills are really, really big. But again, trying to look at the the cost of service elements of that, and the power supply. So under the proposed structure, would go down kind of less than if we just did things across the board. But again, that's what we're trying to focus on, some consistency in our rate design with cost of service. I know that was a lot, but I kind of wanted to get through that to kind of brief you on the study, but I'm certainly more than happy to take questions.
Well, what we'll do is, once we get into the new business, we'll probably bring you back for questions.
Sure.
Yeah, but don't go anywhere. All right, now, anyone who would like to speak for the public hearing, you are welcome to come on up now.
Hello, gentlemen. My name is Nancy Layton. I've been in this position many, many times before. I live at 750 Peak Street in Bedford. I'm here about the electric rate study because we've had a number of increases over the last 2 years. It seems like every time I turn around, there's another proposed rate increase. And, you know, I appreciate all the facts about the study, but it doesn't really help my bottom line any. On the surface, you know, because you're unbundling the PCA, it looks like we're getting a decrease, but the PCA is insidious because it gets adjusted every 6 months. And the idea that you are going to see any decreases in the PCA in my lifetime is exceptionally small. And that makes it just a ratcheting vehicle for increasing rates all the rest of my life. You know, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
My name is Tim Brook. I live at 840 Randolph Street. And I would like to thank John for the magnificent job you did keeping the power on this winter. And I'd like to say that if John says we need a price increase, we should give him the tools that he needs to get his job done.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Rick Reynolds, 109 South Ridge Drive, Bedford. I did not come here prepared to discuss the electrical rates. There's something that I like to ask that maybe the question can be answered. Mayor, you worked for the electric department here in town years ago, didn't you?
2 years.
How many?
2 years.
2 years. Then you moved on to Appalachian?
No, went to the Air Force.
Okay. Yeah, power production.
I got away from here for 4 years.
Power production at Grand Forks or Minot?
Grand Forks, North Dakota,
Right.
correct.
My question, Mr. Wagner, I see a lot of contractors doing the work for the electric department here in town that when I was growing up and living here, the town employees, a fantastic bunch, did it themselves. Can you explain that to me?
Sure. What's happened is we've had several communication companies such as Shintel and Comcast come through here wanting to put up their fiber on our poles. So our own crews are busy doing our work. So we made an arrangement with those communication companies to bring in a contract crew, basically to work for them. So they pay the crew. The crew works to our standards, and we inspect their work, but we're not paying them. They're being paid by the communication company.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that answer. That explains a lot. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, Mr. Blackstick, come on down.
Tim Black, 624 Mountain Avenue. Obviously, I know the position you guys are in. I mean, I was intimately involved in the last few years trying to understand the cost structure of our electric utility, and I'm so thankful that we were able to get an independent study to look at this and really deep dive into our cost structure. And you know, I appreciate the effort y'all did with that. You know, it is what it is. I mean, there's a whole lot of factors nationwide driving the cost of electricity. So you're not alone. There's two things I would like to ask. One is if you could at least get the presentation put on the website so people can look at it and digest it themselves, you know, because I'm sure there's a lot of good information there to help people understand what you are facing. You know, so, you know, I'd ask that you do that. I don't know if there's any, I mean, I've talked to John, I've talked to several of you, I've talked to Bart, you know, trying to throw out ideas, you know, how to make this not such a big hit at one time. I mean, obviously you're looking at a 15 to 20% increase going into winter, you know, and a lot of people are going to struggle. You know that, we all know that a lot of people are going to struggle with this one-time hit. I don't know because obviously not being here now, I don't know where your cash reserves are, you know, but I wonder if there's any way that you could break this huge first increase over two times. For example, could you take 60 or 75% of that increase, you know, in the first time going into winter, and then try to see where costs are in, you know, springtime and try to pick up the rest of it then. Gives people a little more time to adjust instead of having this sticker shock, because believe me, it's going to be sticker shock. I mean, it's sticker shock for me, you know, when I looked at what mine's going to be this winter, you know, when you're talking close to $100 more a month. I mean, but, you know, I know this utility has used the cash that it built up over time to delay this day as long as they could, as long as you all could. So, you know, I get it. I understand why you have to make this tough decision. But if there's anything, you know, that can ease that transition period, I think all of us would appreciate it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ann DeLong. I live at 1512 Clearview Road. And I just wanted to say a couple things about the proposed rate increases. I think we all understand that this is a national problem. This is not a municipal problem. It's not a county problem. It is, to some extent, a state problem here in Virginia because we are the epicenter for the growth of data centers for the entire country and, frankly, the world. Our state is not keeping up in generating sufficient energy to serve those needs. And, frankly, the costs are coming back on the rest of us, all of us here. I'm particularly concerned about the effect that this is going to have on senior citizens on a fixed income, people who are on Social Security. Their Social Security payments do not go up by 20% each month or each year, and yet this is a 20% increase in their electric bills. I don't know if there's any provision for some kind of discount or compensation for people who are on fixed incomes and can't afford to pay the full bill. But as others have already said, we do not want to go into the winter months and have people unable to stay warm in their homes, to keep the lights on in their homes, to be safe in their homes. I would ask that the town council reach out to the state and, to the extent possible, to the federal government to work on solutions that will bring us more energy, more efficient energy, and cheaper energy, which is what the entire country needs and what this administration has promised for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, who else?
Hello, my name is Mary Reynolds. I am 109 South Ridge Drive in Bedford. I've listened to the consultant, and it's wonderful to get a consultant report, But I would really, as a former business manager, I really would encourage you to go beyond what they have said and go down to the deeper levels. Do you really need to fund capital with O&M cost? I mean, O&M revenue? I mean, there's new ways to do things. Think about outside the box, because you're hurting these people's lives. And there's a 300-day of O&M is a great idea, but maybe just we go 200 days just for a while and then go back up. I mean, try to look outside the box and think of some other ideas that could happen. But I'm looking through my notes, just there's a few, but a 17.2% hit all at once. You think we have unsheltered now. It's going to get worse. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? David?
Mayor and council, my name's David Thomas. I live down on 1615 Shady Knoll Avenue. And I just want to say that the electric department has done an excellent job, because when the lights go out, I mean, you don't know when they might come back on, and if the grid goes down or something, and it might not come back on. So if we've got to do this to get by, I just want to commend the electric department and this council, because we are cheaper now than anybody else. So sooner or later, we got to catch up. I mean, I hate to pay as much as anybody else, but like I say, the other night when the lights was off for 6 hours, I was wondering if it's going to come back on. I was scared. And when you don't have power, you don't have anything. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, anyone else wants to speak on behalf of electricity? All right. Power's still on. All right. Then I will close this public hearing. All right. New business. Ordinance electric rate tariff for fiscal year 26, Mr. Warner.
Just to recap, the town issued a request for proposals to enter into an on-call contract for electric utility rate study services. After reviewing the submitted proposals, the town entered into a contract with Raftellus Financial Consultants for utility rate analysis services on October 15, 2024. Town staff received the request of information items needed from Raftellus to perform the rate study on November 18, 2024. Throughout the end of 2024 and into early 2025, Raftellus worked in coordination with town staff to evaluate the financial data and develop a rate structure proposal for the town's electric system. On June 10, 2025, Raftellus presented the electric utility rate study to town council at a work session. The recommendation included the option to either apply an across-the-board percentage increase to the existing rate structure or to implement a new rate structure which removes the purchase power cost from the base energy cost and fully allocates the cost to the purchased power cost recovery rate. Raftellus and town staff recommended implementing the second option, which would provide better transparency to the customer on purchased power cost and allow for easier calculation with financial reporting. Notice of public hearing regarding the electric tariff increase was published appropriately on August 6th and August 13th, and of course was just concluded. Tonight, town council is requested to consider adoption of the ordinance presented.
All right, you all have heard the reading. Do I hear a motion? Then I will make the motion.
I'll move.
Second?
Yeah.
Okay. I made it, Vice Mayor Updike made the second. All right, let's talk about it. What's on your minds?
Can I add a few words? Is that appropriate?
Please do.
Yeah, I heard some very appropriate and interesting comments from these citizens of Bedford, and I do respect them greatly, and I do
no one here wants to have such a rate increase. We've worked extremely hard over the past several years to maintain rates as low as we could. Former Mayor Black is here, and he knows, and you other folks know, that we have been under-recovering our purchase power costs for at least 2 years, and that has eroded our financial position. And we had probably committed over $1 million to that process, well over $1 million. Believe me, if we had room to continue to do that, I would be happy to do that. And I heard discussions about where the national issue of generation capacity is exactly correct. The regulatory burden imposed in Washington and in Richmond has made it unattractive for investors to invest in new generating facilities. This whole increase is because the regional power grid is looking down the road and they see blackouts and brownouts coming. So they initiate a policy to get capacity prices higher in order to encourage folks to build new generating facilities. And guess what? It hasn't worked. They're still not building facilities. So this year, our capacity cost assessment from the regional power grid went from $40,000 a month to $400,000 a month. That's per month. We have already under-recovered 2 months of that, which is $360,000 a month. And if this rate increase were to go in effect on October 1st, that would be 3 months of under-recovery already. Now you can see it doesn't take long before you get underwater. So it's frightening from our perspective that we are in this position, that everything is being done at the regional and federal level to encourage folks to build more generation. It's still not happening. We know what our capacity costs are going to be next year, and they're going to be even higher than what they are this year. So when I look at the landscape, it really comes down to the policies that I've put in place over the past decade, probably, that have led us to this point. So what's the answer? Well, I've tried to tell people the answer is, first of all, stop closing power plants that have a useful life left. The second step is to bring back plants that have been mothballed. And that can be done fairly quickly. And then finally, to encourage investors to invest in new generation. And how do you do that? You assure them that they can recover their costs that they invest over the life of the plant. Until that happens, there's not going to be any new generation built. Just that simple. Now, we have invested in a wide variety of power supply resources here in Bedford, which I'm very proud of. We have our own solar farm, we have hydro resources, and we have peaking generators here. You know, when we look at others who are similarly situated, we are in a much better position than they are, believe it or not, because we have this variety of power supply that's feeding us. We also have long-term commitments through AMP, and then we have several short-term contracts that we use to take advantage of market prices. So, for example, if we had just continued to buy from Appalachian Power Company, which we did in 15, 20 years ago, our rates would be even higher than what we're asking for today. Some of the municipalities, municipal utilities who are similar to us, like the city of Salem, they recently went out for bids for power supply, and they're going to end up being even higher than we are. And the bids did not go to Appalachian Power, they went to another provider. So I think that we have invested wisely here in Bedford, long before I came here, to have the hydro plants we have and the other resources we have through AMP. But it's a national issue, as someone wisely brought up. It's not something that we have any control over. We do have a strategy to help reduce our cost over the long term, but that takes time. And in addition to that, I heard some folks talk about, do we need to make capital investments? We're not making any capital investments. Our budget is bare bones. In the past, we have budgeted $1.4 million roughly in capital, which is about what our depreciation expense is. So we're basically treading water. This year, we budgeted $250,000. And a lot of that money is going to prepare for these new residential developments. Because we have to make an investment up front as these properties get developed. So this year in particular, there is no capital money for the electric utility. It's all going to these other activities. So that's a little frightening because we're just treading water and maintaining what we have. But we're not investing in new facilities for the electric utility. So I'm not trying to paint a gloomy picture. I think if we can pass this rate increase, we can work our way out of this situation over the long term. But really the long-term solution is to put in place policies that will encourage the construction of new generating facilities. And that will alleviate the burden for us and other utilities like us. So I'm respectively requesting that the council approve this.
Well, I'll start. Just to address some comments that I heard just moments ago, and this is in no particular order. This council and councils before have done a tremendous job in offsetting the costs of electric rates. Just as John has said earlier, you know, investment in solar, wind, and water. You know, they're trying to hit it all. And I think that they've done, you know, the best they could with what's available. And for years, decades, the rates here have been much lower than any of the surrounding power suppliers. And I think we've gotten real comfortable with that. Unfortunately, there have been some rate increases. Some of those rate increases, past councils and this council has elected to take on part of that so that the full burden wasn't passed on to the customers. But the bill is still out there. We had one lady talk about that, you know, it's not a local problem, it's a nationwide problem. It's, you know, in Virginia. And our legislators need to hear what our concerns are. Just by chance, I think we have a senator that's going to be here tomorrow. What time is he going to be at the Visitor Center?
10 o'clock.
Okay. So we have a U.S. senator that's going to be at the Visitor Center. These are things that they need to hear because they're the ones that's going to be able to, you know, fund any type of bailout or anything along those particular lines. You know, since I've been on this council, I've been asked several times about how I feel about raising taxes and, you know, this kind of stuff. I live here. I don't have to pay any more taxes than anybody else does. I don't want my electric rates to be any higher than anybody else does. You know, my philosophy is that come to Bedford because we're going to do it as good or better than anybody else is, and it's not going to cost you as much. Just looking at, you know, some of our competitors, you know, we got Southside. Well, those folks have a very big area to cover. They have their own hurdles, but their rates are about as high as anybody else in the area. And it takes them a while to address a particular outage or other power issues. Salem, their rates, if we adopt this rate, they'll be considerably lower than what we are. But their tax rate on everything else is considerably higher than what ours is. You know, we're within $5 of what APCO is currently charging. And it is my understanding that APCO has requested an increase effective January.
That's correct. They proposed an increase. I think it's around $10 beginning January 1st.
So APCO's feeling the pinch too. They're going to be raising their rates or requesting to raise their rates. You know, it's an ugly sandwich, and we all got to take a bite out of it. Is kind of where we are. I have a couple more comments, but I'll wait till I hear from others for the timing of it.
Well, I just had a quick question. Mine's fairly easy. It has to do with Ms. Layton's comment. The PCA on here at the new rate would be 11 cents. Would that be changing every 6 months still? Was a question that Ms. Layton had.
Yes, we would keep that the same. We just changed the way it's calculated. So it would be addressed then on November 1st and then May 1st.
So if we pass it now, it'll be addressed again about a month after we.
Correct. And we'll have to see where we stand, but it's likely that we will not have to make a change November 1st.
You said we're addressing it again in May?
May 1st.
May 1st.
Yeah, November and May.
Right.
Yeah. 6 months.
My problem is, down here it says, bills are due upon presentation and payable to the main office or authorized collection agency of the town of Bedford within 20 days of the bill. A 3% per month will be the minimum penalty of $5 per month. You get a check once a month. You get paid on the 3rd, and your light bill is due, and you ain't got it to pay, then you're going to be penalized. I think we need to look over this, and because we got to think about our old people. Not calling y'all old, but
Talk to me.
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Actually looking at me.
I was looking at CG, but I was
No.
but I mean, you got to stop and think. Because when I was out getting signatures, I met 2 ladies that actually live below you, CG, and they was thinking they was gonna have to sell their houses because, you know, once they got annexed in and they got that extra tax added to them, you know, one lady had less than $100 a month to live on, and that was to pay her car insurance, her groceries, her gas. She was a single widow lady. And then we're gonna sit here and tell them they got 20 days, and if their light bill comes due and they don't get their check in time, then we're gonna sit and charge them more money that they don't even have to begin with. I just have a problem with that.
Can I just make a comment there? I can understand where you're coming from, believe me. But recent activity in Richmond has extended the time in which we must have a grace period for shut-offs. It's now, I don't know, is it 45 days? So we're carrying that cost even longer than we used to carry it. And there are government programs to help people pay their bills.
No,
There's a
that's
heating-
stopped.
heating
That's
program.
gone. You don't get no more fuel assistance. It went bye-bye. You got your cooling assistance, and then after you got your cooling assistance, that's it. There's no more heating assistance. So all the people that got heating assistance and for the wintertime, which you actually get in January, is now gone. It's no more to it. You don't get it anymore. So
We haven't received notice yet. That may be correct.
you can call social services. They'll tell you.
Okay.
They mailed out the letters. They're pissed.
Okay, well, and that's a shame, because a lot of people counted on that.
Exactly.
And we worked closely with people to make sure they got it. I'm not opposed to a little bit of an increase in that time to pay your bill. It's something really we have to talk about with finance, because it's gonna have an impact on us and carrying costs, but it's something worth discussing.
But you got two upper council people and you, before I speak.
Oh, Lord.
Dave, you have anything to say?
Yeah, the only thing I would just say is reiterate what the vice mayor said about how the town over the past at least 2 years has basically subsidized the PCA. I mean, even when we voted the last time on that, the town subsidized about $350,000 worth, just a few months ago, and we're just at that point now that we can no longer afford to do that. And so that's just bottom line. It's not something we want to do, but I think it's something that we necessarily have to do.
Okay, I'll speak. Go ahead. Okay. So, John, your crew and y'all do a great job keeping the power on in town. I think the world of you, John, so all of that. So, but yes, Councilman Updike has mentioned that we have subsidized this over the last several years or whatever about the PCA. And then one of the questions was Mr. Foreman asked, that's one question I want to ask about the PCA. Second off, if we have, I think somebody brought it up early in the comments about splitting the thing. So can we possibly split the increase at all, instead of doing all at once, do it in between 2 different periods or something like that?
Well, you all can do whatever you vote to do. However, the impact of that is that we'll be further and further behind. And as I mentioned before, our cash position has already eroded significantly. So that will be the result. Our cash position will erode further. We're already going to be 3 months behind at $360,000 a month. That's over $1 million behind already, even if this goes into effect October 1st. So if you want to go ahead and make it a 2-step process, it's just going to increase the amount that we're behind and the amount that is going to erode our cash position.
Well, you already said the PCA, once we pass it, we gotta come back in a month later and increase it again, or possibly decrease it.
No, I don't think it's going to increase at that point, because, we're committed to going forward with this. So I would say we're not going to have an increase in November 1st. But just be aware that the cash register keeps on ringing, and we have to pay our bills. So I don't know what our cash position is now. I'm going to guess 5 to 8 million, in that range someplace. So you can see it won't take long before we're out. Let's put it that way. And we really don't want to be in that position. I've worked very, very hard since I've been here to get us to the point where we're debt-free. And next year we're going to be debt-free. And that will give us some help, because our debt service is about
In the electric fund, let me qualify that.
I'm sorry?
In the electric fund, based on the conversation we're going to have shortly. Let me just qualify. We'll be debt-free in the electric fund.
Right.
we have issues in the general fund we still have to talk about.
Yeah, okay, I'm just speaking for the electric fund, not for the general fund.
So kind of just touch on that. So we're supposed to be, debt rolls over in FY 2026. Why don't we pay it off early and save money from it and use that money to help some of the costs that we already done?
Yeah.
That'll further impact the cash position, but again, that's
Right.
a choice council can make.
And I don't think the interest rate on that note is all that burdensome, so it doesn't really make sense to pay it off early. I mean, if it was a high interest rate, yes, I would agree with you, but I don't think it's a significantly high interest rate.
All right, you made 2 or 3 comments, and also it says in here, is this a recovery for a loss, or are we trying to just line ourselves with the rate?
No,
You have said recovery 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I said in the past we have under-recovered, absolutely. This is not recovering any of those past costs. This is just from here forward. This is based on our 25, 26 budget. It does not recover anything that we did not recover in the past.
So are we just writing all that money that we already?
Yes. At this point, I don't think, we have any plans to recover that million and some dollars. No.
So we're just gonna write that off and not do nothing with it?
Well, as others have pointed out, we made a decision to subsidize these costs so that it would minimize the impact on customers. So at this point, no, we're not gonna go back and collect that money. It just came out of our reserve fund, and that was a decision to help offset the cost in the past.
We paid for it.
That's true, that's right.
So other than that, like, so, on the other day said this is a recommendation, so we can pass it or we don't have to pass it, correct?
As I said, you're the governing body, you can, you get enough votes, you can do it as you wish. I just want to make sure you understand the consequences of that, of a decision to not go forward.
I see, it was a comment made about AP, APE is supposed to raise that cost or whatever. Well, our customer base is smaller than them.
Sure.
So, of course, our cost is gonna be higher compared to their cost, because they're gonna have more input.
Well, not necessarily. Remember that they pay a dividend to their stockholders. We don't do that. We don't do that. We don't make a margin, basically. We're just recovering costs. Now, I have to be honest and point out that one of our large customers, when I told him that, he said, "Oh, yes, you do. You make a contribution to the general fund." That is like a margin. I don't look at it that way. I look at that as a cost of doing business. So, but as compared to an investor-owned utility, I can guarantee you the salaries and the costs that they incur are higher than what our costs are.
Thank you.
So real quick, so basically, if we would do nothing, it'd be $360,000 a month we would be paying out of our funds for a year, which would be about $4.5 million.
Correct. So that if we have $5 million in reserves or $7 million, you can see that it goes pretty quickly.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
I got one question for, and I guess you're probably going to be the best one to answer this. You sort of mentioned in your presentation, again, along with my philosophy, come to Bedford, we can do it slightly cheaper and as good as or better than anybody else. If our customer charge was dropped from 25 to 20, that would put us below what APCO would have. What's the ripple effect of that for us?
Well, you would lose probably in the neighborhood of $400,000 in revenue if you did that. So you'd have to recover that somewhere else, all things being equal. So if you push that into another of the rate structure components, that you have to get it somewhere else.
Anybody else? Well, let me say a few words here. No one here wants to see higher electric rates. No one. As John has said, and tell us, Bart, we appreciate what you've said. The town's been actually subsidizing, excuse me, certain percent for several years now. It's not sustainable. It is not, with the way costs have gone up. And yes, having worked for AEP for 34 years, I could tell you when it happened. That's not important at all. As John said, when you put coal-fired plants out of business with nothing to replace it with, this is what you get. And I was told then, gloom and doom is 10, 15 years down the road. So you can say it's the state now or whatever. No. Demand is far outweighing supply. And here we are. I mean, I think Midwest, further west, they're having blackouts. We are very fortunate to have John here, and you all will agree, and it was said, we have a very good electricity grid and a very good workforce that gets up middle of the night, freezing temperatures, burning temperatures, and gets the lights back on very quickly. And I'm not going to compare it to anybody else, but it could be a lot worse. We are very fortunate here, but we are at that point in time where we have no choice. Vice Mayor Updike pretty well summed it up. Costs have risen sharply. Bedford is not immune to any of these market forces. It's across the country, everywhere. As I've said, and we cannot continue subsidizing, any part of it. It's just not sustainable. And we've done our best to keep costs low, but we're at that point to where we just can't continue to do that. And I hate it myself. And I do have compassion for the needy. And I can tell you, I can assure everyone here, we'll continue listening, exploring options to help families manage their bills. There are avenues out there, but in ways to keep Bedford's electric system as affordable as possible. Yes, we are being slowed down a little bit on the disconnects, and it might be a good thing. I don't know. I'm far removed from all that now. I know how it used to be. Things have changed considerably. But I think our responsibility as council is to ensure the electric system remains financially stable, reliable, and able to reinvest in infrastructure. That's where we have to focus. Without passing this adjustment, we risk falling behind. And that would ultimately cost all of us in the long run, in that, as John very clearly said, when you deplete your funds, what's going to happen? I mean, yes, and we don't want that to happen. I mean, heaven forbid if that happened, it would only be a roll of the dice who took it over. I'm not saying gloom and doom by any means, but you have to look at all possibilities as to what could happen. And that's why I'm in favor of this rate increase. And that's about all I can say at this point. Anybody else?
I got one thing to say, Mr. Mayor.
Go right ahead.
You know, increasing this, especially in the wintertime, I think it's been mentioned a few minutes ago, this will hurt some of our residents in town in the process of their bills being higher than normal and stuff like that. And, you know, we have talked about possibly separate it, so I would like to make a amended motion to this motion. I'm gonna make sure that I do it before I do it. I like to make an amended motion that we do half of this budget rate, and then looking into half of the first year to the Apple Park. That's my motion, amended motion to this motion.
I agree with that.
Unamended.
Yeah.
Is the movement considering that to be a friendly amendment to the motion, or do we have to vote on the amendment to the motion?
We've already made it.
I think we have to vote on amended.
Yeah.
Amended first.
So that would be an amendment? All right. So then the amendment needs to be voted upon prior to going back to vote on the original motion.
All right, correct.
Okay.
I would note that it's not entirely clear what that motion is actually for, because due to the way that there's two different factors here, one of which is the rate, is the revenue recovery, or excuse me, the amount that we need to recover in order to meet our revenue. The other is the rate structure, saying that we're only going to recover half of what has been recommended that we recover. I don't know if that can be passed, if that can be mathematically passed on easily through the entirety of the rate structure. But I'm guessing that would be difficult. Yeah. So if the direction is to recover only half of, we were trying to bring up the recovery to 100% of our cost. If we're only going to take it from and I'm using round numbers here, but if we're only going to take it from previously recovering 90% of our cost to then 95 and at some point later go to 100, then we're going to have to do some other rate refactoring within the tariff in order to make that work. I just wanted to make clear that if what council is directing us to do is to only get 50% of the rate recovery increase right now, we're going to have to go back and redo the tariff to come back to you next month to reflect that. Is that roughly a right thing to say, John?
Yeah. If we're looking at an average of 17% increase, what you're saying is you are proposing to recover half of 17% of the increase. So that means that we'll be under recovering to the tune of what, $200,000 a month, roughly. So, and that would have to come from reserves. Yep. 8 million is what we have now.
You either have to come from reserve or subsidize it out of taxes.
Well, yeah, you could always make that motion.
Oops. It'll be reserved. Well, again, though, I mean, we're to the point to where I think we just, as somebody said, we've got to bite the bullet and face the music, but I do feel for the ones the less needy that we will look at all options to help them out. All right, what else? Are we voting on the amendment first? Is that?
I think that if the amendment's been proposed and there's a second to the amendment, you need to vote on the amendment first.
Did we get a second?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So that would mean we would be subsidizing basically $1 million between now and January 1st.
Pretty much, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, are we good?
I think she has a question. This lady right here. I got a question.
Okay.
I had one more thing that I wanted to say, and I forgot to say it earlier. Mr. Wagner said that he's been spending a lot of his money on the new construction. I want to make sure that new construction does more to pay for itself than relying on, the reserves of our electric company. I don't want to see any more extensions. I don't want to see any more concessions. I want later on, when revenues are coming from property taxes and stuff, but from the get-go. That's just my opinion.
Can I just clarify something? If this were to go into effect October 1st, we're already $1,080,000 behind. Already. So then, if we would do this, it would be another $1 million. So we would be over $2 million under recovering by January 1st. And then if you put a second step in January 1st, which is when heating season really starts, we probably have to change the PCA because the PCA requires that we go back and get under recovery. So it would be a huge step in January. So
this recovery, when we talk about, we're not recovering what's already lost, we're just recovering in the future of
Correct.
the cost. So there's a difference between one recovery and the other
Yes.
recovery. And I hope people are not getting mixed up.
yeah,
Does that make sense, John?
it does. Yeah, yeah. So if the bottom line is we would just be eroding our cash reserves more and more and more. Let me just add one thing. AMP does a calculation of like debt credit worthiness for all of their members. Right now, we cannot pass that test because we're not having a debt coverage ratio greater than 1. And that's occurring because we're subsidizing the PCA. Now, in 2026, we could pass because we won't have any debt, but that won't be until July of 2026.
Very good. Good. Roll call.
Mr. Haley.
Aye.
Mr. Ippolito. Mr. Updike.
Nay.
Mr. Evans.
Nay.
Mr. Foreman.
No.
Mr. Foster.
No.
Mayor Stanley.
No.
Motion fails with 5 members voting no, 2 members voting aye.
Now we can vote on the original
Now you
motion.
return back to the original main motion. Yes, sir.
All right. Any further discussion on that? Go ahead, Shauna.
Mr. Foreman.
Aye.
Mr. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Haley.
No.
Mr. Ippolito. Mr. Updike.
Yes.
Mr. Evans.
Aye.
Mayor Stanley.
Aye.
Motion passes with 5 members voting aye.
All right. That is that. Next item is, yeah, what I do? What I do with? Discussion, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial.
Yeah, Mayor Stanley, members of council, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Board is installing a memorial in the grounds of the Bedford County Courthouse with a dedication ceremony scheduled to take place on Saturday, November 22nd. In anticipation of that event and installation of the memorial itself, board members have inquired about the possibility of changes to the site, including but not limited to the possible elimination of on-street parking spaces. And tonight, you are requested to consider any requests for site changes that are within the town's purview. I understand some of the folks on the board are here to answer questions or share information if you want to call on them.
Would we want to discuss this before we make a motion as to what we want to do? Is that okay? Because I'm not sure how many spaces we're looking at. I mean, I think it's,
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, ladies and gentlemen. We're currently looking at the modification of 2 sites, which would be directly in front of the memorial. The memorial, as you may remember from my briefing on the 10th of December, will be center of the courthouse. There are 3 planter boxes. The one directly in front of the courthouse is roughly 5 feet by 12 feet wide. The memorial itself will stand within that footprint. It will be 4 by 12 by 9. Currently, the 2 parking spots in question will block the memorial from view from street views or from potentially those people that are visiting the memorial that wish to have photo opportunities, family members, Vietnam veteran events that will take place in Bedford. So we're asking respectively to modify those sites, possibly move one more to the right, and then right now there's some signs that are a bit ambiguous anyhow with respect to handicap parking and the time limits. But these 2 spots in question are directly in front of that planter box. If that helps you.
I'm trying to get a picture of exactly where, is it to the left of the courthouse or
Dead center, sir.
Okay. And so you would like 2 spaces?
If we can, the width of the memorial itself will be 12 feet.
Okay.
If there's a way to modify the parking without, and right now there are some easements, if you will, from where previous handicap access was. That's roughly 6 feet wide. If we can modify and shift some of that parking either to the right or to the left, we'll find that we're only really addressing a 3 or 4 foot section by modifying and clearing that space where that 12-foot monument will exist.
Okay. All right. What other questions?
And I'd be glad to discuss more in detail if you need me to come back another time. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, I think, we've talked about it and we're here tonight, so why not figure out what to do?
Answer anything you might have, sir.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask counsel over there, I understand the state code, anything that's done on that courthouse property was approved by the circuit court judge.
Right.
He has that whole authority to do that. Does that extend into the street, or is that y'all's home?
No, that's,
Consideration.
that is, this parking spots are up to the town, correct?
Yes. Well, it depends, I guess, on whether it's in the public right-of-way or if it's on the courthouse grounds. If it's on the courthouse grounds, actually, it becomes both a county and a judge issue. They have to actually wrangle it out between themselves. But if it's in the public right-of-way, then it's a town issue.
And I have consulted with the county administrator who advises that the parking request would not negatively impact the county's operation or the courthouse operation. Yeah. Unfortunately, signs are easy, spaces are your purview.
I'm trying to understand, and I'm in favor of this, don't get me wrong. I just want to get the motion correct.
I understand.
So you would like 2 spaces shifted, or?
If we can clear the area directly in front of where the memorial will stand, it will free visibly that line of sight from the road from visitors coming into town that will see that. And for those visitors that wish to take photographs with family members or other Vietnam veteran groups that might be visiting the memorial. And there is ample space to shift parking one way or the other, right or left, respectfully, to do that.
Okay.
So we may not be eliminating park, we may not be
We may,
eliminating
in
park. we're
essence,
just-
once we put the ruler on the ground, may not be eliminating 2 spots. We're modifying the current
That's-
space, the parking.
Just modifying.
That's correct.
You're basically wanting about a 12-foot
Yes, sir.
line of sight.
Correct.
So it may just be modifying them there.
Yeah. So would council be in favor of
And
modifying?
it may be a bit of semantics because
Yeah.
not knowing the exact measurements, maybe one needs to be eliminated. However, I think after walking it several times, I believe we can modify with the space that's there in front of the courthouse to gain that space, that 12 feet.
Okay.
Mayor, can I make, I think I've got the motion.
Yeah,
for it.
go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we allow them to modify the parking or eliminate 1 spot if necessary. One parking space if necessary.
Second.
Councilman Foreman made the motion and Councilman Haley made the second. Any further discussion?
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, ladies.
Go ahead, Sean.
Mr. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Haley.
Aye.
Mr. Ippolito.
Aye.
Mr. Updike.
Aye.
Mr. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Foreman.
Aye.
Mayor Stanley.
Aye.
Motion passes with all 7 members voting aye.
All right, now, next. All right, next is discussion on the building.
All right, I know it's late, and I know you had to deal with some stuff, but more news, it's not great. As everybody's aware, we do have issues with our air conditioning system, much of which is original building, and I'm going to ask you to fact check me. Over the last 7 or 8 years, we have spent $900,000 in total in basically putting new patches on old skins and keeping the thing going. Let me give credit to the staff that's been doing that. They've kept it going wonderfully, but we're running into outages and problems where we find out that the temporary fixes we find are either not compatible, can't be done due to the physical nature of the parts, or they're not cost effective. The last quote I had from our current service provider, Select Air, was for $250,000 to replace the chillers that are failing. We have 2, one's dead. Replacing that with a temporary system. When I say temporary, something that would be warranted for 1 to 3 years. Would take up 2 parking spaces. We've had that vetted by an independent third-party engineer and been advised that we don't really know that we can get 1 to 3 years out of that. And effectively, we're looking at a complete revamp of the entire system. The quote that we were given for that is $1.3 million. I guess what I wanted to advise you of is that we consulted with our financial advisors, Davenport and Company, today. We have the ability to obtain up to $2.5 million in credit for a period of 20 years, which means that the general fund would continue to pay the same amount of debt service for 20 years beyond our original plans to be debt-free. That decision's not made. We'll have to come back to you and present that, but basically we want to tell you that we're prepared to reject the proposal for the $250,000 fix because we think we just end up spending that money again within 1 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And we want your direction and consensus at this point to proceed with presenting a financing package to you. And I'll be happy to answer any of the questions you have. But
would you want the entire 2.5 or what?
We want to do some budgeting and cost engineering because in addition to the HVAC, we have problems with the electrical system because when we had an outage recently, we brought in temporary units,
Yeah.
which blew our fuses, which have also been discontinued and have not been made for 30 years. We're also aware that the windows in this building are original, not efficient. Most of them don't open, so we'd like to look at that. And if it's possible to address some space needs for the police department by an expansion in the back of the building, we want to look at all. We want to bring you a comprehensive thing. If we're going to continue to be in debt, let's get the most bang for our buck as possible, and that's what we intend to do.
I will say this, in talking to Bart, I told him, I said, this is imperative to get it done, in that it affects the employees. And, you know, when you're hot and not comfortable, you don't work efficiently.
Well, and also, we had to close the office Friday before last because it also affects our internet infrastructure, which is housed in the middle of the building and requires constant air conditioning.
Yes.
Like to relocate that somewhere else because it makes no sense. But on the occasion of the Friday shutdown, we had a power outage at 9 o'clock that tripped everything again.
Wow.
We didn't recover those systems till 3:30. We made the decision to close because staff couldn't do their work and we didn't want to frustrate our customers.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do that again.
Well, that needs to be fixed. I will say, I've mentioned to Bart also that if there's any additions that need to be made to the building, this would be the time to do it.
If we can.
If it's affordable and if it's needed.
Double with the fan and the air conditioning, you know something wrong.
And she's not a happy camper.
No.
But-
She always told.
Well, Mayor, this has been going on since I was working here, so
Yeah.
this is an issue that's been going on for many, many years. And the police department they're there whether everybody else gets to leave or not, the police officers actually have to still be there.
Correct.
In the heat of it all,
Yeah,
and in that building, so I would say that I would be telling them to do what they need to do, because we need to fix it for all of our employees.
That's the way I feel. I mean, so, Dave, what do you think? You okay with that?
I think it's a prudent move, to try to do what we can while we can.
Yes. Everybody okay with it?
We were almost debt-free.
Do I?
We were almost debt-free.
Well, it'll be ongoing. It'll always be something, so it happens, but we'll get there. All right, everybody okay with that? You got your marching orders, Bart?
We will bring you back something.
Okay, are we done with that? Now, ready for closed session? Do I read that, correct? Or do you read it?
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great.
Okay. Closed session pursuant to Virginia.
Recess.
Oh, I've had a request for a 5-minute break. Okay. All right, go ahead.
5-minute recess.
I think this might be quick.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
2.2-3711A3 and 8 for the purpose of discussing or consideration of the acquisition or disposition of land, and also, I can't talk anymore, for consultation with the town attorney regarding the legal status of such property, for discussion in open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the town regarding forest property outside of town limits in the Peaks Magisterial District of Bedford County. Do we hear a second?
Second.
All right. Mr. Warner.
Town of Bedford hereby certifies that, one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the council.
All right, so move.
Second.
Go ahead.
Mr. Updike?
Aye.
Mr. Evans?
Aye.
Mr. Foreman?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Ippolito? Mayor Stanley?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn, closed session passes with 7 members voting aye.
Okay, now I'm going to adjourn the meeting until 6 p.m. on September the 9th, 2025, for a work session on the downtown strategy planning. And our meeting will start at 6 p.m. on September 9th. Everybody got that?
I will be
Okay,
out of town on Zoom.
well, we'll zoom you in.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
I'll be in Wisconsin.
We'll just